Give me 1 second here. I think I need to try to, there we go. That should make it a little easier. So the topic of today's discussion is important because is film photography even worth it? You know, the year's 2023. I think my answer has changed a lot just in this year. Because right now I would say no. I would say it's not worth it. I would say if you're not into film photography, if you're not embedded in it, then maybe it's more wise to do something different with your money. Get like a nice Fuji camera. It's a one-time expense, one-time investment. And then from there you can get the presets, make all your photos look like film, or just get any other digital camera and get Lightroom and do virtually the same thing. Because film is prohibitively expensive at the moment. And ultimately, a lot of the reasons that I enjoyed film was the creative exploration, the unknown variables of what it is you're going to get. And now I just feel uninspired to pursue those things as it is so expensive. And I think in terms of a creative medium in which to operate, it's not ideal as it provides inconsistent results for a lot of people. And obviously there are ways to circumvent that. You can, use the same film, use the same camera and stuff like that. But with film being the cost that it is, and with cameras being as expensive as they are, it almost seems more viable for a lot of people to just do the one-time investment of... 1 second. Oh, it's like, why is this just firing? It's because I'm missing the magnet in the bottom there. Anyway, sorry, I got a little distracted there. A lot of people look at all of these expenses, they start adding it up, and realistically it just makes more sense for 9 out of 10 people to just get a digital camera and use that, study that workflow, and maximize the returns on that I believe are personally a little bit higher. But that being said, I'm still going to shoot film, partly because I'm stubborn, and partly because that's kind of the basis of this channel. So there's that. However, I don't know how inclined I am to be as experimental with it. And I will discuss this through the lens of shooting film that I normally don't shoot. And the reference that I'm going to use is a very recent example from a little bit earlier this year when I shot some Ektachrome. And Ektachrome is an interesting film because Kodak actually brought it back. It was one of their original stocks. They brought it back in the... That's awkward. I have to take this out. 2018, I believe it was, when they were kind of on the comeback, which, for reference, 2018, 5 years ago, that's probably when I would say would be a great time to get into film. Cameras were pretty affordable back then. Film was a little bit sparse. Yeah, film was sparse, but you can get a bunch of expired film, and the film that there was pretty affordable. It's funny because I remember back then, 2018, you could not find 800T, Cinestill 800T. I remember I got 2 rolls of it, and I couldn't find any more anywhere else. It was insane. And now to think about just how plentiful it is, I still kind of get weirded out when I see a bunch of it, because it's I kind of think back to when nobody had any, and now all of a sudden it's a lot of people's what they usually shoot with. But I digress. They brought back Ektachrome, and I remember I shot a roll of it, and I took maybe 2 good pictures on it. And that is important to know because Ektachrome is color positive film. Color positive film is like slide film, so you can like, instead of getting a negative of the image, you get the positive, which is cool because then you can view it through a slide, you can like view it in a projector, all this stuff. However, it does cost a lot more to develop, it costs a lot more to produce, all of these things. So to rationalize that expense is a little bit more difficult, especially when each picture's probably averaging out to about $1 or two, a little bit over $1. And if you're only taking like 2 good pictures, you're spending over around $40. It's hard. It's really hard to be like, this is a good use of my limited funds. However, I've shot 2 rolls of Ektachrome since that time of E100. I've shot much more the expired Ektachrome that didn't turn out at all, but that's a story for a different day. And ultimately, what that led me to is this screwdriver is not magnetized anymore. It's kind of annoying me. That led me to not wanting to shoot it for a while. But lately I was seeing that some people were getting positive results from it. Not just color positive, but like, positive results. And I thought maybe they've changed the formula, because sometimes that's done. Like, I got like the first couple rolls of it, so maybe they've kind of fine-tuned the workflow, made it a little bit easier, or made it a little bit better, something like that. So I got a roll and took it out to a little trip down to Florida and Michigan this past summer, and here are the results. I kind of hate it, to be honest. Like, I'm not really stoked. And also to note, like, I'm not the best photographer. I don't claim to be, and I'm not talking about like the photos I took, I'm not jazzed about, because for the most part they're not great. But also I think the overall medium in which they were taken wasn't fantastic. You'll notice in a lot of them that it is very, very blue, and it is called E100D or whatever. That's because it's daylight balanced. So the idea is that color temperature needs to be around 5200 in order for things to look normal. And because it's 100 speed film, it's pretty slow. So you want to shoot that outside. So this is all outside in Florida, which is a pretty sunny place. It should look relatively normal. However, it's still looking very, very blue. The other thing is, with color positive film, what you see is kind of what you get. You can't really, there's not a lot of ability to edit the photo after the fact, which not a lot of people edit their film photos. That's fine. I kind of do, because I don't really care too much about the purity of it. Sometimes I don't, because it's more fun, but other times I'll tweak it just a little bit to make it pop a bit more. You can't do much with this. The shadows are way too dark, especially this one, and there's almost no detail in the shadows. And overall, the image just looks dim, and it looks blue. You see my good buddy Jeff, and it was really good seeing him and catching up. I'll make a more structured video on this, but just for the sake of discussing the film itself, he's wearing a hat, and the shading from the sun through the hat onto his face, it's pretty apparent, especially if you look out at his ear, how much brighter that is to his face. Like, it's just, I don't know, the dynamic range of the film is not fantastic. And again, each one of these shots, every time I'm like cycling through, just think, it's $1. It's $1. I spent $1 plus on this shot. One that I did particularly enjoy was this one. I was kind of going for like the washed out strip mall kind of look, and I think it really achieves that. I do think that the deep red on the Bay Plaza sign like adds interest to the image, and overall it looks barren as I wanted it to, and this is definitely one of the better ones in terms of like the overall temperature of the image. But then we go up to 25, and it's like it looks like I shot this through a fish tank that hasn't been cleaned in years. And Like, I don't know what this like green muskiness is, but I'm really not a fan of it. And yeah, you probably edit this a little bit, but still, it's like it did not look like this outside, and I just don't really enjoy that too much. And again, $1 plus. And then go up one more to this one here, and it looks relatively normal. Like this is probably what you want to shoot it in, and it's like broad daylight. But still, go one more over, and broad daylight and water, and you're still getting like these really heavy blues and everything. So I don't know, to me it just seems very uneven in certain images, and there's some that I was like, oh, this is, could be usable, but I'm not like, oh, I'm so glad I took this shot, I'm so glad I shot this film. This one here actually turned out pretty decent. I think this is going over the bridge to the Upper Peninsula, the Mackinac Bridge. And I think it looks really cool. I think I did a really decent job of like framing the other upright and the forward upright or fore upright or whatever. And overall, the color temperature looks pretty good. The green of the bridge is expressed. I think the little bit of color pops you get on the side rails here is very nice. And these are just travel photos. It's nothing of like significance. No one's paying me to take these, but still, the fact is that using this medium, went out to try to go explore something, to try to like figure out, is this film a viable option? Is this like a fun thing to do? That's the kind of stuff that like brings more money into film photography, is the explorative component to it. People trying out new stocks, people trying out new cameras, people trying out new lenses. All of that kind of leads to growth of the platform, growth of the medium. And if you don't feel confident in continuing to explore different options, you're going to just get a digital camera, because that's something that you can rely upon. And again, looking at these shots, there's nothing that's like too terrible about them. There's nothing that's like the worst thing ever. But overall, I guess the point I'm trying to get to is, fuck me. This is so annoying. The point I'm trying to get to is that film photography right now is silly. Like it's just objectively kind of a silly thing, because there's so many better alternatives for less money. And I think I speak for most people when I'd say that like financially it's kind of tough these days. Like groceries are expensive, gas is expensive, everything's expensive. So in terms of creative exploration, unless it's like your job that someone's paying you to do, shooting film is just another expense, and that's usually the first thing to go for people. So is it something you want to get into? If you have like direct interest in it, like if it's something that you're pursuing actively, then yeah, I'd say go for it. There are very affordable ways in order to do film photography, but your options are going to be severely limited. There's not a lot of affordable color film. There's not a lot of affordable experimental things you can do. Those prices are all kind of going up. And it also seems as though the market share has been greatly diminished to just a few main companies producing things. Thus, the prices can continue to raise because there's not as many competitors that are making the market more competitive. I don't know. It's a weird position to be in, having a channel dedicated to kind of a resurgent and then dying artistic interest at that. But I would also like to take this time to make the argument for film photography, and outside of me just having a channel to talk about it and me trying to explain and rationalize my existence in this creative space, I would also like to point out that like film photography is a beautiful thing. It's something that we don't really get a lot of anymore in today's day and age, because so much of the life that we live is tailored around immediate results, immediate satisfaction, and things of that nature. Something that we can have direct control over, something that we can directly affect change on, and we can kind of bend to our will in some way. Film photography is not that. It is this relic of a bygone era in which people were just making the most of what they had. They wanted to continue to push the boundaries of what was possible to achieve despite the technical limitations of the time. Taking photos was this unheard concept until somebody thought, let me just pour some chemicals over this and like see what happens. There's a lot more to it than that, but still, it is a element of that I think carries on and makes it this more ethereal way of creating moments and memories. And just as I'm sitting here complaining about the photos I got back, I'm fully saying this with the knowledge of all of these moments, especially the trip moments and stuff, the traveling. These are all things that I'll never forget because, one, I've got a pretty decent memory, but also because the whole experience was captured in this medium that I'm relating to physically as I advance each frame on the camera, as I frame every photo, as I check the exposure again on my phone, as I'm trying to figure out the best way to capture this moment. I am now in a space that will hold on to that moment. I'm thinking now about that shot moving forwards for the next week until I get the photo developed, until I get it sent back, until I can see what it is I created. So it creates this air of importance to that thing because instead of just looking at my little screen immediately afterwards and being like, okay, that's cool. When we get to where we're going, I'm going to just quickly edit the image and, I'll add this LUT over top of it and I'll make it look this way and that'll look really cool. That's a great way to make art. That is a beautiful way to do it. Obviously, a lot of people do it that way. More power to you. However, I would just like to point out that now that moment has been restricted to a moment instead of spread out over the course of a week where I'm sitting in anticipation throughout the rest of the trip for all of these beautiful moments I can relive after I've sent them out, after I've gotten the film back. I can look at them, I can file them away in my little negative folder, I can look at them on my computer and piece together a little timeline of the trip to show other people. Now it's just check on the little phone or check on my little LCD screen, send them over to my computer, edit real quick, we're done. It's just taking that, spreading it out over a greater portion of time, and creating more importance in that moment that otherwise would have been missed. Now, I'm not saying that as in like one is better than the other, it's just two different philosophies. And for me personally, as somebody that does take an aggressive amount of pictures at times, it's really nice when each photo is more significant because it fills me with a greater appreciation for those little moments that otherwise would have been missed. And I'm looking at these Ektachrome pictures and yeah, each one of them cost $1. But the moments that they represent, the moments that was lived through the lens of that photo are ultimately priceless to me. And I think that is a great enough justification for film photography in 2023, 2024, 2025, whatever happens, whether Kodak stops making film tomorrow, whether Fuji brings back all of their old stock, and film photography to me will always be important. It will always be significant. It will always be a part of my life because it creates weight, it creates gravity, it creates moments that otherwise you would just skip over trying to get to the next one. And yeah, ultimately, film photography is not worth it. Financially speaking, it's not worth it. But if you live your life just trying to achieve a bottom line financially, great. Cool. We're different people then, and that's fine. That's all good. We don't have to all be the same people, but for me personally, I want my life to be more lived. Obviously, I'm not trying to go bankrupt, but at the same time, I'm not trying to limit myself on experiences just so I can save more money. It's a very complicated thing. Finances are not my strong suit. It's hard to navigate. So ultimately, it's kind of a personal decision. I think film photography is a great way to experience life, but I also think that financially probably makes more sense to shoot digital. So that is it for now, though. I think I'm going to wrap up this video, so hopefully I can finish working on this camera and get some more content pushed out for you soon. Appreciate you watching, though. Let me know if you have any thoughts, feelings, or opinions regarding film photography. And yeah, how do you feel about it? You know, what are your experiences with it? So on and so forth. But thank you again for watching. Appreciate it as always. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. Check out other videos that I'll put here or something like that. And yeah, catch you on the next one.